Can you imagine what we would be saying if some ally decided to say, hey, we think you need to change your government, change up who your leaders are, right? But then again, we hold the purse strings, right? You did not hear Schumer talking about conditioning aid. Of course, it wouldn't just be his call, but it's an interesting effort going on here. Is it just purely political posturing? Let's get some better minds. American writer, analyst from Gaza, Ahmed Alkhatib, and NewsNation's correspondent-at-large, Geraldo Rivera. He's been friends with Bibi Netanyahu for more than 50 years. It's good to have you both, gentlemen. Ahmed, I told you I was going to have you on the show, and here you are. So let me ask you, what does this mean in terms of the perception of America's fairness in the situation?
Well, I think the circumstances in Gaza have undermined U.S. power in the Middle East. We see the situation with the Houthis in Yemen. We see the continued bombardment in northern Israel. We see the targeting of U.S. troops in Iraq and Syria. This war has already spilled over beyond the borders of Gaza. There's international pressure on the United States to adjust its tone at the Security Council. I think this is called for. I think it's appropriate. I think the United States has an immensely valuable role to play in bringing this war to an end, frankly. And that doesn't necessarily mean meddling in Israel's democratic affairs by imposing a candidate or so. I think it's clear that Prime Minister Netanyahu is absolutely putting his interests above those of not just the people of Israel, but the interests of the United States as a trustworthy ally of critical partners in the Middle East.
Well, look, there's no question that they're meddling, Geraldo. This is unprecedented in terms of telling an ally it's time to change leadership. But do you think it's the right call by Schumer? Do you believe that Bibi is an obstacle to peace?
Well, just very briefly, I think that he has an absolute right to express his displeasure with Bibi Netanyahu's leadership. It's not, Chuck Schumer is not just another American politician speaking to a recipient of American aid. He's the highest ranking Jewish official in the United States. He's the Senate Majority Leader, for goodness sake. He has been a fierce defender of Israel and remains a defender of Israel from his days as a Cub. He represents New York, the capital, the biggest concentration of Jewish people outside of Israel. And he has every right to express his feeling. I was stunned by it. I was shocked by it. But I was, in some ways, reassured. It's very, very hard to hear the news out of Gaza and children and women and so forth. And you keep remembering how Hamas set the whole world up by slaughtering the Israelis on October 7th, and knowing after the rapes and mutilations that the Israelis would respond. So the Israelis did. I think that nobody expected the ferocity or the longevity of the war in Gaza to take place, but it is splintering the Democratic Party. Very difficult. There's Arabs usually vote Democrat. Historically, the population in swing states like Michigan, very significant. So Biden just had to do something. Schumer was the perfect person to do it. I happen to agree with what he said about Bibi, but I also note for the record that McConnell, the minority leader in the Senate, he called it, awful, and he grotesque, hypocritical, anti-Israeli, earth-shattering. So it is not without cost that Schumer made that statement about Bibi. But if we're going to get past this, I think Schumer had a lot of substance behind his statements, Chris.
Well, look, does he have a right?
I just want to build off of what.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but just what Gerardo said. It's very clear that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not capable of ending this war on terms that are favorable to Israel. It's very clear that the military establishment in Israel is looking for an exit strategy, an off-ramp, to build upon the tactical successes so that they are not in this perpetual war. And so I think Senator Schumer is absolutely aware of, I'm sure he gets a lot of briefings, and he's aware of a lot of operational and tactical details that Netanyahu is not capable of ending this war.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com,
And you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.